My name is Diego, and I was there when David's story changed forever. It was a crisp autumn morning on October 15th, and the air was filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. David, standing in her cozy kitchen, was preparing for what she thought would be a normal day. Her heart raced as she anticipated a meeting with her ex-husband, a man whose shadow still loomed over her life, despite their separation. As she stood by the window, the soft sound of wind chimes danced in the background, a gentle reminder of the strength she had built over the years. Just the day before, her wife had playfully mocked her for insisting on sticking to a simple routine, as if the predictability could somehow shield her from the emotional turmoil. "Why not spice things up a bit?" her wife had teased, laughing lightly as she poured her a cup of that same comforting coffee. David smiled at the thought of moving on, but deep down, she trembled at the uncertainty that lay ahead. How can blood turn to poison like this? What nobody knew was that this meeting would unleash a series of events that would shatter her world once again. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue across David's modest backyard. The scent of rain-soaked pavement lingered, mingling with the faint aroma of BBQ wafting from the grill. It was a simple evening, one that David had come to cherish in his own way. He leaned back on the porch, the wooden slats creaking softly beneath him, as he listened to the melodic chirping of birds settling in for the night. There was a certain hopefulness in the air, a promise of tomorrow that he clung to, even as his heart ached with memories of what had been lost. Jessica had always been the ambitious one, her eyes set on the glimmer of wealth and status. When she'd left him for a wealthier man, David had felt a crushing wave of disbelief. It had been a stunning betrayal, the kind that made his heart sink with the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. He recalled how, just weeks before, they had shared laughter over simple dinners and quiet evenings. "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening," he had whispered to himself, staring at the empty space next to him on the couch where Jessica used to sit, her laughter filling the air. His brother, Brian, had sided with Jessica, convinced that David was a barrier to her success. "You just don't get it, do you?" Brian had said, his voice brimming with impatience. "She's chasing her dreams, and you're holding her back." That had stung, more than he would have admitted. David had always believed in the beauty of a simple life, the joy found in small moments. But now it felt like that philosophy had become a target for ridicule. Sitting on the porch, he recalled the day Jessica had left. The rain had been falling lightly, and the smell of wet earth was intoxicating yet bittersweet. He had tried to reach out, to understand, but she had shut him down. "You don't understand what it means to want more," she'd snapped, her eyes blazing with ambition. That moment had shattered something inside him. Karen, his best friend, had been the only person to truly see him through the haze of betrayal. She would often sit with him on the porch, offering her wisdom with a side of humor. "You know, David, if you keep focusing on what you lost, you'll never see what you still have," she'd said one afternoon, her voice soothing like the gentle breeze that ruffled their hair. He appreciated her perspective, yet the ache of loneliness lingered. "Have you thought about getting out there again?" she asked one day, her brow furrowed with concern. "Maybe join a group or something?" David had shrugged, feeling the weight of his own indecision. "I just don't know if I'm ready for that," he replied, watching as the last rays of sunlight danced across the horizon. As the weeks turned into months, preserve the original language of the text, pouring his energy into his small garden, nurturing the plants as if they were his only companions. The smell of fresh soil and blooming flowers offered a comforting balm, though it didn't fully erase the sting of abandonment. "You've got to find joy in these moments," he reminded himself quietly, each day a small victory against the shadows of his past. Then came the day when everything changed. David was sitting on the porch, a warm breeze playing with the leaves, when he noticed a figure approaching. At first, he thought it was just a trick of the light, but as the figure drew closer, his heart raced with disbelief. It was Jessica, looking disheveled and lost, her usual sparkle dimmed by the weight of her recent struggles. "David, I need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. He felt a mixture of anger and confusion wash over him. The woman who had once mocked his simple life now stood before him, a shadow of her former self. "What do you want?" "Jessica?" he asked, his tone measured yet cold. He could hardly recognize her. The glitz and glamour she had chased had crumbled around her, leaving only a shell of the woman he once knew. "I'm sorry," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I thought I could have a better life, but it didn't turn out the way I expected. I'm broke." Her words hung in the air, heavy with regret. David's heart raced, caught between the memories of what they had and the reality of her betrayal. He could hardly wrap his mind around the irony of her situation. "So, what? You think I'm just going to take you back?" he replied, the sting of her previous words still fresh in his mind. "I never appreciated what I had until it was gone," she pleaded, desperation in her voice. "Please, can you just listen to me?" As he looked at her, David felt a flicker of hope mixed with disbelief. On the porch, the weight of their past felt heavy, yet strangely freeing. Perhaps this was a moment of reckoning, not just for her, but for him as well. The rain had stopped, and the world felt still, as if holding its breath for the next chapter. David stood in the backyard, the faint smell of morning coffee mingling with the sweet scent of freshly cut grass. The distant hum of traffic provided a comforting backdrop, almost drowning out the chaos brewing in his mind. He took a deep breath, hoping to find solace in the simplicity of his surroundings. The sun was just peeking over the fence, casting a warm glow on the patio furniture, a testament to the life he had built. Yet something felt off. As he sipped his coffee, the warmth of the cup in his hands felt grounding. It was a routine he cherished, a small pleasure amidst the upheaval that had invaded his life. Just then, he heard Jessica's voice drifting from inside the house. She was on the phone, laughing, her tone light and carefree. David's heart sank as he caught snippets of her conversation. "Oh my God, you'll love it! I can't believe I'm finally doing this!" Jessica exclaimed, her voice laced with excitement. Who was she talking to? David's mind raced with possibilities. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach, a mix of disbelief and suspicion gnawing at him. The laughter echoed in his ears, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't meant for him. He tried to shake off the unsettling thoughts and refocused on the beauty of the day. The backyard was his sanctuary, filled with memories of barbecues and lazy summer afternoons. But now, those memories felt tainted. It was as if the light that once illuminated their shared moments was dimming, overshadowed by uncertainty. "David!" Jessica called out, snapping him from his reverie. She walked out, her smile wide, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside him. "I have a surprise for you." He forced a smile, trying to mask the rising tension. "Oh, really? What's that?" He didn't want to sound dismissive, but he couldn't shake off the feeling that the surprise had little to do with him. "I can't tell you yet. Just trust me. You're going to love it," she replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. David nodded, though his heart was not in it. "Sure, I'll trust you," he said, but the words felt heavy on his tongue. He wanted to believe her, to feel the joy that she radiated, but doubts clouded his mind. As Jessica went back inside, David's thoughts spiraled. Was her excitement genuine, or was it a front for something deeper? Memories of Brian's words echoed in his head. "You're just holding her back, man." Brian had always sided with Jessica, seeing her ambition as a rightful pursuit. But David felt he was more than just a safety net. He was her partner, her support. The wind rustled through the trees, a gentle reminder of the world outside his inner turmoil. He wanted to confront her, to ask the questions swirling in his mind, but fear held him back. What if he was wrong? What if this was just another episode of miscommunication, another misunderstanding in their complex relationship? That evening, the backyard filled with the aroma of grilled burgers, a ritual they had both cherished. David flipped the patties, the sizzling sound mixing with the laughter emanating from inside. He caught glimpses of Jessica through the kitchen window, her phone in hand, still laughing. "David, can you bring out the drinks?" she called, oblivious to the storm brewing within him. "Sure," he replied, his voice steady, though his heart raced. As he walked inside, he couldn't help but overhear her again, the tone of her voice a strange blend of joy and secrecy. "I know, I'll be ready in a bit. Just keep it on the down low, okay?" she said, her laughter ringing out again. David paused, the drinks forgotten in his hands. He felt a chill run down his spine. It was one thing to hear her excitement, it was another to sense a hidden agenda beneath it. He had always trusted her, but now, that trust felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. "Jessica," he said, stepping into the kitchen, his voice firmer than he felt. "Who were you talking to?" She turned, surprise flickering across her face. "Just a friend. Why?" "Your friend? Or someone else?" he pressed, unable to keep the edge from his tone. "David, it's nothing. Just a planning call for tomorrow night's event. You know how busy I've been," she replied, dismissing his concern with a wave of her hand. "Yeah, busy with what? Secrets?" he challenged, his heart racing. Jessica sighed, frustration creeping into her expression. "You're being paranoid. It's just a surprise, for you. Can't you just trust me?" "Trust? Oh my God, I can't believe this!" David exclaimed, the words spilling out before he could stop them. "How can I trust you when you're keeping things from me?" The silence that followed hung heavy in the air, thick with unspoken words and rising tension. David's heart pounded, a mix of fear and determination swirling within him. He had to confront the reality of their situation, no matter how painful it might be. As he stood there, the distant traffic outside faded into a dull roar, and all that mattered was the truth they both needed to face. David took a deep breath. "We need to have a serious conversation." Jessica tensed up. "About what, exactly?" David sat at the kitchen table, the rich aroma of fresh coffee wafting through the air, mingling with the sweet notes of the morning sunshine filtering through the window. He wrapped his hands around the warm mug, allowing its heat to seep into his skin, hoping it would thaw the icy grip of betrayal that had settled in his chest. The gentle clinking of wind chimes outside provided a rhythmic background, almost mocking him with its lightness. He had just finished scrolling through social media when a post caught his eye. A picture of Jessica, laughing and carefree, her arm wrapped around a handsome stranger. The caption read, "Living my best life." David's heart sank. It was one thing to see her move on, but this was a whole new level. A wealthy businessman? The kind of man who could whisk her away from everything they had built together? "Oh my God, I can't believe this," he muttered to himself, the words barely escaping his lips as disbelief washed over him. The coffee he'd been savoring suddenly felt bitter, reflecting the dark turn of his thoughts. He glanced at the photo again, his mind racing. Had she really found someone who could give her the life she always craved? The betrayal stung sharper than he anticipated, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been replaced, tossed aside like yesterday's news. Just then, the familiar sound of Brian's voice pulled him from his spiral. "David, you got a minute?" His brother entered the living room, an easy confidence radiating from him. Brian had always favored Jessica, believing David's simple life was an anchor holding her back. "Yeah, I guess," David replied, trying to keep his voice steady as he placed his coffee mug down. The table felt like a barrier, separating him from the judgment he knew was coming. Brian sat down, his expression shifting to one of concern. "I saw Jessica's post. She looks happy." The words dripped with a mix of disappointment and curiosity, as if Brian was searching for a way to comfort David while still standing by Jessica. "Happy? She looks like she's gone off the deep end," David shot back, his frustration bubble into the surface. "You know she didn't just leave me for happiness. She wanted money, status, everything I didn't have." "Come on, David," Brian said, leaning forward. his voice dropping as if he were sharing a secret. "She's doing what she needs to do. You know that. You've always wanted a simpler life, but she had dreams." David felt a wave of anger rise within him. Dreams? Or a fantasy? I can't believe you're defending her after everything. You think I didn't give her everything I could? Brian shrugged, his expression unyielding. Maybe she just needed someone who could keep up with her. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusations. David clenched his fists, his heart racing as he fought back the rising tide of emotion. And what about me? Was I just a stepping stone for her to reach higher? Is that all I was? Brian hesitated, the silence between them thick. David felt the weight of betrayal and grief, an emotional cocktail that churned in his stomach. He had always been the one to hold things together, to find joy in their small home and shared dreams. But now, it felt as if that joy was stripped away, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. Suddenly, the sound of Jessica's laughter echoed through the living room, a haunting reminder of what he had lost. It was a sound he had once cherished, now twisted into something that cut deep. David's thoughts spiraled, fueled by the image of her with another man, living the life she had always wanted. "David," Brian said softly, breaking the silence, "maybe you should talk to her, find out what's really going on. This guy, he could be a fling." David shook his head, feeling a mix of dread and resignation. "You don't get it, do you? She wanted out. She chose someone who could give her everything I couldn't. I'm not going to chase after her. I deserve better." "And what if she realizes she made a mistake?" Brian pressed, his brow furrowing in concern. David leaned back in his chair, the weight of the conversation pressing down on him. "What if? I can't keep holding on to what could have been. It hurts too much. But I won't be the fool who begs her to come back." The room fell silent, the wind chimes outside producing a soft, melancholic tune. It was a moment of reflection, where David understood that he had to let go, not just of Jessica, but of the life they had envisioned together. As Brian stood up to leave, he looked back at David, concern etched on his face. "Just remember, I'm here for you, okay? You're not alone in this." "Thanks, Brian," David replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The coffee was cold now, and he felt empty inside, like a shell of the man he used to be. He watched as Brian walked away, leaving him alone in the living room, the scent of coffee mingling with the bitter taste of betrayal. In that moment, David realized that the road ahead would be hard, but perhaps it was time to reclaim his life, to find joy in the simplicity he had once cherished. And maybe, just maybe, he could turn this pain into something that would lead him back to himself. The morning sun spilled golden light over the porch, illuminating the dew-kissed grass and casting long shadows from the trees. David sipped his coffee, relishing the familiar aroma that wrapped around him like a warm blanket. The gentle chirping of birds filled the air, a comforting soundtrack that contrasted sharply with the chaos of his thoughts. He had spent the last few months trying to rebuild his life after Jessica's departure, but the memories lingered like a stubborn stain. With a sigh, he set down his mug and picked up his phone, scrolling through social media as he often did. He had promised himself he wouldn't dwell on Jessica, but every now and then, curiosity got the better of him. As he flipped through the images, his heart sank when he stumbled upon a post of Jessica wrapped in the arms of her new lover, an affluent businessman named Richard. The caption read, "Living my best life," followed by a string of heart emojis. "Oh my God, I can't believe this," he thought, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Just then, a message pinged on his phone. It was Karen, his best friend. "Hey, you okay? Want to talk?" David hesitated, but then replied, "Not really, just scrolling through social media." "Don't let it get to you, David. She's not worth it," Karen replied, her words a soothing balm for his weary heart. "I know, but seeing her so happy with him just makes me feel like I wasn't enough," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Listen, you're a good man. You find joy in the simple things. That's a strength, not a weakness," Karen reminded him. "Besides, I heard some things about this guy she's with." David raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Karen's response came quickly. "My friend works at the same firm as Richard. She says he's not just wealthy, he's manipulative. He has a reputation for using people to get ahead." David's heart raced as he processed her words. The idea that Jessica had traded their simple life for a relationship with someone who might not have her best interests at heart sent a shiver down his spine. Could it be that she had jumped from one trap to another? That moment on the porch changed everything, David thought, as he stared out at the vibrant flowers in his garden. He had once taken pride in their modest home, the way they would bake apple pie together on lazy Sundays and enjoy quiet evenings under the stars. Now, it felt like a distant memory, one that he was starting to view through a lens of hope instead of despair. "I can't believe she would go for someone like that," David murmured to himself, the bitter taste of betrayal still fresh. She thought she could upgrade her life without considering the consequences. A wave of determination washed over him. David stood up, pacing the length of the porch, his mind racing with thoughts of how he could confront the truth. He had to know more about Richard and the hold he had over Jessica. If he could uncover the reality behind the facade, maybe, just maybe, he could help her see the truth. His phone buzzed again, and he glanced down to see another message from Karen. "David, promise me you won't let this affect your peace. You deserve to be happy too." "I will, Karen. I just need to figure this out first," he typed back, his mind set. As he stepped off the porch, the cool grass beneath his feet felt grounding. He needed to talk to Brian, his brother, who had always sided with Jessica. Maybe Brian could help him understand Jessica's choices, or at least get him closer to the truth. "Hey Brian, can we meet up?" David texted, his heart racing with each letter he typed. "What's this about?" came Brian's response, terse and suspicious. "Just want to talk. It's important," David replied, hoping to convey the urgency of his need for answers. "Fine, meet me at the cafe in an hour," Brian agreed. As David walked to the cafe, the weight of what he might uncover loomed large in his mind. The thought of Jessica being manipulated by Richard gnawed at him. Would she still be so enamored by the trappings of wealth when she realized the cost? The cafe was bustling, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries. David spotted Brian at a corner table, looking uncomfortable, as if he were waiting for a confrontation. "David," Brian started, his tone defensive, "what's going on?" "Have you heard about Richard?" David asked, cutting straight to the chase. Brian's expression shifted. "What about him?" "Karen's friend said he's manipulative. He's not what he seems," David pressed, searching his brother's eyes for any sign of understanding. Brian crossed his arms, a familiar protective stance. "Jessica made her choice, David. She wanted more than what you could give her." David felt the heat rise in his chest. "But at what cost? You think she's truly happy? Or just stuck in another trap?" Brian's face softened for a moment, and David saw a flicker of doubt. "I don't know, man. I just thought she was better off." "Better off or just different?" David challenged, his heart racing. "I want to know the truth." In that moment, it became clear to David that the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. But if there was a chance to help Jessica see through the glittering facade of her new life, he had to take it. He couldn't just stand by and watch her stumble blindly into a fate that could break her even more than she had broken him. David sat on the porch, the fresh aroma of coffee wafting through the air, mingling with the faint scent of grass freshly cut. The world felt oddly quiet around him, save for the distant hum of traffic that seemed to blend into his thoughts. He held his mug tightly, his knuckles turning white as he replayed the events of the last few weeks in his mind. Jessica's laughter echoed in his ears. Not the joyful sound he once cherished, but a haunting reminder of what he lost. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the neighborhood. He took a deep breath, trying to savor the moment, but all he could feel was the ache in his heart. The emptiness of his simple life without her was palpable. He was still trying to grasp the reality that she had chosen wealth over love, comfort over genuine connection. It felt surreal, like a bad dream he couldn't wake up from. Suddenly, his phone buzzed against the wooden table beside him. David glanced down, expecting another notification from social media, but it was a message from Jessica. His heart sank as he opened it, half expecting more of her self-justifying nonsense. Instead, her words dripped with regret, a stark contrast to the confident persona she had embraced. "David, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I thought I wanted more, but now I feel so lost. I miss what we had. I made a terrible mistake." His fingers hovered over the screen, disbelief washing over him. How could she be feeling this way now, after everything? He never thought he'd see the day when Jessica would doubt her decisions. The pain of losing her still felt fresh, a wound that hadn't yet healed. He could feel a flicker of something. Was it hope, or just the flickering remnants of love? The moment hung heavy in the air, as if the world around him paused to let him think. Cultural reflection. In the porch, it hurt like heartbreak. He had never imagined this would be the turning point. David took a sip of his coffee, trying to ground himself in the present, but the taste was bitter, reminiscent of the tears he had shed over her absence. He decided he needed to respond, to find clarity amid the chaos. "Jessica," he typed slowly, weighing each word, "you made your choice. You left me for a life that seemed better, but it looks like it wasn't what you thought." The seconds ticked by painfully as he waited for her reply. Each moment felt like an eternity, and the distant sounds of traffic faded into a muffled background hum. He could hear the rustle of leaves in the breeze, a reminder of the life that continued around him despite his heartbreak. Finally, his phone buzzed again. "I know, and I'm sorry. I just thought I could have it all. I thought money would fill the void, but it hasn't. David, I'm so regretful. Can we talk?" He blinked, a wave of emotions crashing over him. He could feel Brian's voice in the back of his mind, always siding with Jessica, always believing she was destined for greater things. "You deserve more than this, David," he would say. But did he? He had found contentment in the small things, morning coffees on the porch, the sound of birds chirping, the simple joys of a life well lived. A thought struck him, an unexpected realization that left him breathless. The smell of fresh coffee brought painful memories. It reminded him of the mornings they shared, the plans they made, the dreams they had. And now, those dreams felt shattered, lying in pieces at his feet. David typed again, his heart racing. "Maybe we should, but I need to know that you're not just looking for comfort because you've lost everything. I can't be your safety net." The reply came quicker this time, her desperation palpable through the screen. "I understand. I just need a chance to explain. I miss you, David. I thought I wanted a different life, but now I realize I was wrong." He read her message, the words swirling in his mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Reflection. That moment at the porch changed everything. He stood at a crossroads, and the weight of her past choices pressed heavily on him. Would he allow her back into his life, or was this merely a fleeting moment of weakness? David's heart raced, torn between the memories of love and the sting of betrayal. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the porch, and he knew that whatever decision he made next would define his future. He took another sip of his coffee, the warmth a stark contrast to the chill creeping into his heart. As he pondered the potential of rekindling what they once had, he felt a strange sense of empowerment. He was not the same man who had let her walk away. He had grown stronger in her absence. The choice lay in his hands now, and for the first time in a long while, he felt ready to confront whatever came next. David stood in the backyard, the smell of rain on the pavement mingling with the aroma of pancakes wafting through the open kitchen window. The distant hum of traffic buzzed like an uninvited guest, reminding him of the world outside his little bubble of solitude. His heart felt heavy as he waited for Jessica to arrive, feeling a mixture of anticipation and dread. The door creaked open, and there she was, Jessica, looking as stunning as ever, though her eyes were clouded with a storm of emotions. He noticed the way her hair fell in loose waves, how she clutched her phone tightly in one hand, as if it was her lifeline. She stepped into the backyard, and for a moment, the world faded away. "David, she started, her voice faltering. "Let's not make this complicated," he interrupted, trying to mask the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. "You chose your path, you left." Jessica's face crumpled, and in that moment, all the walls she had built came tumbling down. "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I thought I was making the right choice. I thought I could be happy." "Happy? With Richard?" David couldn't help the bitterness that crept into his tone. "Look where that got you, alone, broke, and begging for my understanding." Tears glistened in her eyes, and for the first time, "Preserve the original language instead of arrogance. I thought I could have everything, success, wealth, but I was wrong, David. I was so wrong." She took a shaky breath, glancing around as if the backyard could offer her solace. "I miss you. I miss us." His heart sank, torn between the love he once held and the hurt she had caused. "You didn't just leave me. You left everything we built together," he said, his voice cracking. "You wanted a life that was bigger than us, and I was just a stepping stone." "No!" she exclaimed, taking a step closer. "I thought I could be happy, but the truth is, I was never happy without you. I didn't see it until it was too late." David closed his eyes briefly, letting the weight of her words wash over him. The rain began to fall softly, creating a rhythm on the pavement that matched the beating of his heart. Cultural reflection. In the backyard, it hurt like heartbreak. "Jessica, this isn't just about you anymore," David replied, his voice steadier now, though each word felt like a stone thrown into a deep well. "I have to protect my heart." "Please," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I know I messed up, but I'm here now. Can't we just talk? Can't we try?" The sincerity in her voice struck him like lightning. It was unexpected, a flicker of the woman he had fallen in love with. "Do you really think it's that simple?" he asked, his brows furrowing. "You just waltz back into my life and expect everything to be okay?" "I don't expect that, David. I don't," she said, shaking her head. "But I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I was chasing a dream that turned into a nightmare. I don't want to live in regret anymore." He ran a hand through his hair, glancing away as the memories flooded back. Their laughter, the simple nights spent talking under the stars, the way she used to smile when he surprised her with pancakes. Reflection. That moment at the backyard changed everything. "David," she said softly, drawing his gaze back to her. "I'm still that woman you loved. I made a terrible mistake, but it doesn't mean I don't want to try again. I need you to understand that." It was like a wave crashing over him, the past crashing into the present, stirring up feelings he thought were buried deep. "You're asking me to forget everything, Jess. The pain, the betrayal, the way you mocked my simple life?" "I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not that person anymore. I realize now that what I really wanted was always right in front of me." David felt the tension in his chest loosen slightly, but the scars remained. "You can't just erase what happened. You had your chance." "But I want to make it right. I'll show you. I'll prove it," she insisted, taking another step forward. "Just give me a chance, please." His heart raced, torn between anger and the flicker of hope she ignited within him. "I need time, Jessica, time to process everything you've done." "Take all the time you need," she said softly. "But I'll be here, waiting." As she turned to leave, David felt the weight of her words linger in the air. He watched her walk away, the rain softly falling around him, and for the first time in a long while, he realized that the battle between his heart and mind was far from over. In that backyard, a new chapter was about to begin, but whether it would be one of redemption or heartbreak was still to be determined. "Enough!" David shouted, her voice echoing. "Please, let me speak," Jessica pleaded. "There's nothing left to say," David finalized. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue across David's backyard. He stood on the porch, clutching his mug of fresh coffee, the rich aroma mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass. Birds chirped cheerfully in the distance, oblivious to the turmoil that had visited David's heart. Jessica's laughter still echoed in his mind, a reminder of the warmth that had once filled their home. But that warmth had turned to ice the moment she had chosen a life of luxury over their simple yet genuine existence. Jessica stood before him now, her carefully curated facade cracking under the weight of her desperation. "David," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I never thought he would leave me." David took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words like a stone in his stomach. "Oh my God, you really thought you could have it all, didn't you?" he replied, his tone colder than he intended. "You traded our life for a mirage, Jess." Jessica's eyes darted away, searching for something to anchor her in this conversation. "I know I made mistakes. I was wrong to leave you for him. I thought I could be happy." Her voice cracked, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability that David hadn't seen in a long time. David leaned against the railing of the porch, his heart torn. "You mocked the life we built together," he said, his voice steady but filled with pain. "You thought all that glitters was gold, but look where that got you." He watched as a flicker of shame crossed her face, a fleeting moment where the bravado slipped away. "I thought it would be different," she whispered, almost to herself. "I thought I could find happiness in wealth." Cultural reflection. In the living room, it hurt like betrayal. David felt a pang of sympathy, but it quickly faded. He had spent too long feeling unappreciated, too long watching her chase illusions. "Happiness isn't found in material things, Jess," he said softly. "It's in the simple moments, the love shared over cups of coffee on a quiet morning." Jessica looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I miss those mornings, David," she confessed, her voice breaking. "I miss you." David's heart sank. He had loved her deeply, but he had also learned the hard way that love sometimes wasn't enough. "You can't just waltz back into my life because things didn't go as you planned," he said, his voice firm. "You made your choice." Jessica stepped closer, desperation etched on her face. "I know I messed up. I came back because I realized the truth. I was wrong to leave you for someone who only cared about my looks and what I could provide. I thought I could find happiness in his wealth, but all I found was loneliness and regret." David's thoughts drifted back to the life they had shared, the laughter that had once filled their home. He remembered the way they would sit on the porch, sipping coffee, talking about their dreams. Those memories were bittersweet now. "You can't just come back and expect everything to be the same," he said slowly, searching her face for any sign of sincerity. "I've changed." Jessica's expression shifted, a flicker of realization crossing her features. "What if I've changed too?" she asked, her voice softening. "What if I'm ready to appreciate the life we had?" David studied her, trying to see past the tears and regret. He felt a surge of anger and confusion. "You're asking me to forgive and forget just because things didn't go as you planned? That's not fair, Jess." She reached out, her hand hovering just above his. "I don't expect you to forget, but I want a chance to make things right. I miss the simplicity of our life together. I miss you." Thoughts raced through David's mind. Could he trust her again? Could he risk his heart for someone who had once tossed it aside for the allure of wealth? "In the end, simplicity became my strength," he murmured, almost to himself, "while you learned that the glitter of luxury could never replace the warmth of a genuine heart." A silence hung between them, thick with unresolved feelings. David turned his gaze to the horizon, where the sun dipped below the trees, casting shadows over the yard. He felt a weight lifting and a sense of clarity washing over him. He had found joy in his simple life, a joy that was not contingent on anyone else's approval. "Maybe you can find peace in simplicity too, Jess," he said finally, his voice steady. "But I can't be the one to lead you there." Jessica's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving her. "I understand," she said quietly. "I just hoped, maybe." David shook his head gently. "Hoping doesn't change what's happened. You need to find your own way, just like I did." As she turned to leave, David felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. He watched her walk away, her figure silhouetted against the fading light. The birds continued to sing, the smell of fresh grass lingering in the air. And in that moment, David realized he was finally free, free from the weight of her expectations, free to embrace his simple life without regret. "Do you ever wonder," he thought aloud, "if the pursuit of happiness is found in the quiet moments rather than the loud declarations? And you, on your porch, what do you seek in the simplicity of life?"